Okay, so Nope. Yeah, you say Nope a lot in that movie. So I noticed. Did you notice the all the like seen and being seen, and I see you and you see me, and spectacle and all of that as part of that. This movie is rated R, so you should know that. It opened at number one in the box office. Jordan Peele, the director, said, I wrote it in a time when we were a little bit worried about the future of cinema. So the first thing I wanted to create was a spectacle, a great American UFO story. So this is a horror movie for sure. There's people dying, lots of blood, scary stuff, and you're tempted to believe because it's a scary UFO movie that, of course, the monster is the UFO, right? Except if you know Jordan Peele, and Jordan Peele told Vanity Fair in 2017, humanity is the monster in my films. So even though they're the ones that are being chased through this movie by the aliens, either the humans really are the bad guys, or the alien is a metaphor for bad humanity, both of which can be true. Jordan Peele is known for making social commentary in his movies, and there's lots of different ways to interpret this movie, and he lets you go in any different direction that you want to. You can take it about the forgotten people in Hollywood, especially minorities. You can talk about trying to tame wild animals for personal entertainment. On a sociological level, the control of minorities. Even the brutality of police violence against minorities, the way that the camera on phones have become a weapon of resistance against the hidden terror that they experience. All of those are legit angles in this movie, and he gives us permission to go down there. But I want to focus on an angle that he leads us down from the very beginning of the movie. He introduces the movie with a Bible verse. In his condemnation of the violent city of Nineveh and the capital city there of the Assyrian Empire, the prophet Nahum in chapter 3, verse 6 says, I will pelt you with filth, I will treat you with contempt, and I will make you a spectacle. Spectacle is the word that we want to focus on. Spectacle means something that is visually hard to miss. It draws people's attention, something that is amazing to see, to watch out. And the spectacle in Nahum was God's judgment on them. They were spectacular in their evil, and so he was spectacular in their judgment, was going to be spectacular in their judgment of them. And so Jordan Peele says the word said most on the set was spectacle. So then the question becomes, what is the spectacle that he is talking about in the movie? What is the spectacle that's there? And specifically, directly in this movie, he's talking about the Hollywood culture and the celebrity culture of fame. He says a lot of our analysis dealt with the spectacle and this business of spectacle. Think about that, this business of spectacle, creating spectacle as a business. There's a magic to it, something I've devoted my life to being part of, and there's also something insidious about it. And when you have that duality, there's a perfect kind of thing for me to tackle because I love that. I love duality. So everyone has, in Hollywood, kind of the way you get noticed, right, is to shock people. You shock them into noticing what you do. It's either by the clothes you wear, or the lack of clothes you wear, or where you wear a lack of clothes in a concert or on a stage. There's the Madonnas, the Miley Cyruses, the Marilyn Mansons, the YouTube influencers who will do, they're shutting down public roads to get attention, to get noticed, falling off bridges in order to get noticed, not trying to, but trying to get that shot. People have literally died trying to get that impossible shot that this movie focuses on so much. Including, very famously, the director of Rust last year was shot trying to get the shot of a bullet coming down a barrel. And there's been 194 serious accidents and 47 deaths in Hollywood because of filming trying to get that impossible shot. YouTube, TikTok stars regularly die. Just Google YouTube star dies or TikTok star dies. There's tons of them out there that are dying because they're doing stupid stuff. They're getting too close to the edge. They're diving down places they shouldn't be diving, going places they shouldn't go to try and film these crazy stunts. And in this movie, Everyone dies because they're trying to get the impossible shot. They're trying to get that thing that's going to make them famous. The Oprah shot, the money shot, the impossible shot. It's called all different kinds of things in this movie. The main star in this movie is named Otis Jr., but they call him OJ on purpose, Jordan Peele said, because guess what? OJ made a spectacle of himself driving a white Bronco down the freeway. One commentator said, at the center of this movie are siblings who agree on the existence of the UFO, but both know that it might as well not exist unless they can capture it on film, which will make it real. Did you hear that? If I can't see it, if it's not on film, it didn't happen. It doesn't exist. This pining to make their own mark on the world, pining to make their own mark on this world, while claiming what's rightfully theirs, upending the legacy of their father, is a powerful driving force for the characters. So everybody in this movie is out to find fame in some level or another. Otis, the father, says if we really put on a show, they'll bring us back for a sequel. His point, that's how he continues holding on to his fame, right? He has to put on a show. OJ Jr., his son, wants his family legacy restored, their history. His sister Emerald wanted that as well, but she's gotten to the place where she doesn't just want personal or family history restored. She wants her own legacy, her own fame. She says everyone has a sideshow, and it's her idea to get the money shot or the Oprah shot. This movie's super layered, and I'll just tell you by the way, you may have seen the lady with the deformed face in there with the mask over her. There's a piece of this story that talks about a wild beast that is a chimpanzee that is trying to be tamed. And because someone looks him in the eye, he goes crazy and he maims this person. That's why her face was that way. The Oprah shot is in reference to the real life incident when the woman 20 years ago was attacked by a chimpanzee that was owned by her friend, and she was maimed. And all of the tabloids, they had to put an armed guard on her door because everybody wanted a picture of this woman's face being gone, as gory as that would be. And so Oprah had her on the show, and on the Oprah show, she revealed to the world what her face looks like after being maimed by a monkey. So that's the Oprah shot. So, I mean, there's super, super layered kind of things that are in here in lots of different places. Jupe, who was once a famous child star, now wants to restore his fame again. He's trying to hold on to that fame. He was a star as a kid. Now he's an adult, but he's still playing a kid so that he can still stay famous. There's a TMZ reporter that risks his life for the shot that's going to make him money. And even as he's dying, he's more concerned about the camera than he is with the fact that he's dying. Holsty is the most famous filmographer in the world in the movie, and he risks his life for that famous impossible shot. And he says the dream you're chasing, you heard it in the trailer, the dream that you're chasing when you're on top of the mountain, it's the one you never wake up from, because that dream is, you even when you get up there, you feel like you got to keep going, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. It's fame where you got to keep more, that addiction to fame and never having enough attention. The attention of fame is fickle. Fame is like a wild animal that wants you, and while it's focused on you, you get to be in the spotlight. But the minute that spotlight moves, you've got to do something to get its attention again. You've got to get it something to do to get it. You have to do something to be interesting, and that's where all these ridiculous stunts that people do come in. OJ asks if there's a bad word or a word for a bad miracle. Think about that. Can you think of a word for a bad miracle? Because what he's saying is what they're experiencing is something that is so epic and beyond, it's supernatural at some level, that it's got to be similar to a bad miracle. And he equates what happens when we go from just fame to trying maintaining the fame into a bad miracle. So what is it about spectacle that becomes a bad miracle? When does it turn from being in the spotlight to manipulating the circumstances so that you can stay within the spotlight? In contrast to the humans seeking to be seen in the movie is broken into a series of chapters, each one named after an animal that is being abused and used for someone else's fame and glory. And at the end of each of the chapters, guess what? Each of the animals has a terrible ending, except one, and his name is Lucky, and that's probably why his name is Lucky. So each of them, these animals, appears to be tame and controlled until you look them in the eye or until you disrespect them. And at that point, that's when things go crazy. The main characters learn as long as they don't look the alien in the eye, that they'll be fine. This movie shows the irony of how the pursuit of fame, even that small 15 minutes, will cause the most stable-minded person to become an abuser of others and manipulator of others in order to get what they want, including animals and specifically in the movie minorities. So the question then for us is, why then do we seek fame? Why is it such an attractive, addictive thing for us? Why do we seek to be known? And in the Bible, the Garden of Eden, the serpent planted the thought in the mind of our first parents in Genesis chapter 3, beginning at verses 4 and 5. You will certainly not die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good from evil. So the serpent convinced Adam and Eve, and our first parents, that they were incomplete without doing something, that they had to do something to be able to get to that level of completeness. Specifically, in that case, it was to eat from that tree. And humanity has lived under that lie from the beginning, that we have to do something, right? In order, what do you do? That's the first question we ask people. What do you do? As if what you do decides the value of who you are. So God created us, though, complete and good, and everything was done, but that lie began to rest in our first parents and has been doing damage to us ever since. Verse 8 in chapter 3 continues, then the man said to his wife, and his wife heard the sound of Yahweh God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of day, and they hid from Yahweh God among the trees of the garden. But Yahweh God called them, where are you? He said, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and so I hid. They didn't want to be seen in their incompleteness. They didn't even want God to see them in their incompleteness. And they saw themselves as incomplete, even though God told them at the very beginning that they were good. So Jesus warned us about seeking to be seen. And so I have a passage for us to look at today, Matthew chapter 6. Open your Bibles to, and I'm just going to ask you to get in little table groups. And I have it in 5 different chunks here, verses 1 through 4, 5 through 15, 16 through 18, 19 to 34, 19 to 23, sorry, and 24 to 34. So read those passages and discuss what it says about seeking fame. It's all Matthew 6. So The verses are on you, version 2, if you can't find them. You can't see them up here. How are we doing? Need some more time? Good. All right, let's start with Matthew 6. Yes, Deanne. Okay, we'll get there. All right, let's do one at a time. All right, Matthew 6. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. All right, who had that? Anybody have that passage? Yep, you guys back there? Any comments on that passage for us? How does that relate to faith? Mm, mm, mm-hmm. Okay, go for it, John. Oh, okay. So you weren't that one. So anybody do this passage here? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's pretty obvious what's in there. You know, where do you want your reward from? The question says, you know, if you want it from the world, you get it from the world. But if you want it from God, there's a way to do that. And it's almost as if when, you know, you're blowing your trumpet or you're doing things publicly, it's almost as if you're grabbing for it, right? You're stealing from it. At least it seems to imply this passage. Any other thoughts on that? Your Father sees you. That's the thing that's important. Your Father in heaven is the one who sees you. Who is the one? So, what do we say every day? God is gracious, so I don't have to prove myself to others. Henson said it today, I think. You know, that's the basis of what this is. All right, 5 to 15. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who's in secret, and your Father who sees you in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases like the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, holy is your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive those we have forgiven our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive their trespassers, neither will your Father forgive their trespasses, your trespasses. All right. Anybody read that one? Are there anybody that read that passage? Yep. All right. Any comments, thoughts there?
I'll let Debbie share. No, you don't care too about that. Well, I see a contrast of humility versus pride.
Yeah. Humility.
Position.
Yep. Yep. Right. It's in the prideful thing. It feels like the stealing, right? You're taking something that really, doesn't necessarily belong to you. Your Father sees you, or he says again, your Father who sees you in secret will reward you. Who do you want to be seen by? Who do you want your reward from? Do you want it from the world, or do you want it from your Father? Anybody else read that passage? Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So have you ever prayed with someone and they pray for like 20 minutes and it goes really long? Yeah. It's really hard to be at a pastor's prayer meeting sometimes because we're all good at it. And so, we try to do what I do with here and say, okay, sentences, phrases, let's join together, keep it short. We can cover more territory that way. Well, and it depends on, so in all night prayers, we've done it where the different parts of the night are segmented in different, uh, you know, God doesn't hear our prayers just because we used a lot more words to get there. You can pray about things effective ways without using a lot of words. So you can break in, we've done lots of all night prayer meetings where it's broken into different segments throughout the night. Yep. Yep. Doesn't mean they used a lot of words though. Something I want you to notice that I think is an interesting highlight. Verse 13. Okay, notice chapter 6, verse 13 is one of the verses that's here. 6:13 is key in the movie, and they focus on this several times. At 6:13 p.m., the original chimpanzee attack happened back in the 80s, and then at 6:13 p.m. every night is the time that the aliens show up. And it's interesting here that it kind of highlights this passage and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The temptation of fame that's there. That's there as well. All right. So anything else that's there? I thought it was interesting that forgiveness begins in secret. It's not necessarily a public thing that happens. Forgiveness begins in the quietness. If you forgive their trespasses, your Heavenly Father will forgive you. I think that was an interesting point. Okay, third group, verse 16. And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces. Their fasting may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees you in secret will reward you. Anybody cover that passage? Or thoughts? Yeah, yeah. 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 Yes. Yep. 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 Yes. You want the word from God, not necessarily from other people. Right. Exactly. Yes. Same, just like what Debbie said. It's interesting that he not only tells us what not to do, but then he gives us a positive example of how to fast, but fast in such a way that you're not making a spectacle of yourself. Right. Right. Any other thoughts on that passage? Yes. Mm. Register. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I don't think it's important that we be doing it in secret and nobody knows what's going on. But don't sign up on the list so that everybody knows that you're on the list, right? You could put your, I think most of the lists, when you do those kind of things, you could put in a symbol and somebody will initial know that it's taken care of. But some people will sign up for a whole block just so that someone, oh, wow, look, they took 2 hours in a row, right? So I think that's the point of that. Any other thoughts? Yeah, right? Yeah, right. But just about everything that we do can be. Think about, there's other stories in scripture. The guy that comes to the offering in the temple and he blows the trumpet and everything when he goes, compared to the widow and her mite, right? So this is clearly a thing, clearly a human sickness that this is part of who we are. We got to wrestle with. Okay, here's an ugly piece of my past. One of the things, and when I used to have my quiet time, I used to, in my dormitory in Chicago, I used to go and have my quiet time and get down on my hands and knees at my bed and pray. And one time I came home and somebody had closed my door. And I was like, "Why'd you close my door?" And he goes, "Well, because you're praying. We don't need to all see what you're doing." And I never thought about it that way. And it was like, "You're right. I need to close the door." I used to have this little button that said, "I'm studying, I'm reading, listening to music or whatever." Have these little lights on my door. And one of them was praying. Well, people didn't need to know that I was praying, but in my youthful exuberance for those things, I put those things on there. And we want people to pat us on the back for doing these. But what a spiritual person that is, or something like that. Whew, off my chest, it's gone. Confessed. All right. All right. Yeah, it's amazing that even helping your neighbors, anything that you do can be, and that's why one of the things that we value here in terms of getting people to serve is that people are serving out of their gifting, not out of obligation, because we don't want people to feel like they're being pushed into it or forced into it or shamed into it, or those kinds of things as well, because some people do serve out of pride. And so it's a very delicate balance. There's this really interesting balance between doing it for the Lord and doing it in a way that of course, if you're serving the Lord, people are going to notice, right? And that's what the Lord says. If you leave it to him and you just serve him, he'll take care of the rest. You'll get known as a servant. That. People. We have tons of them here that serve the Lord out of the goodness of their heart, and they have no desire to be, for fame or anything like that. And yet, that can tip so easily in the opposite direction, even within our own hearts, even within us. Even if for 15 years we've been doing something out of the goodness in our hearts, and all of a sudden someone says something, they're like, "Well, don't you know I'm the one who da 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 da." No one noticed it. Well, maybe that person didn't notice it. Others have noticed it. Or maybe we have not affirmed someone's service in a way, and so they feel like, well, if I don't let them know I'm serving, they're not going to know I'm serving. Yes, Dan. Yeah. Rooted in our intimate relationship with him, right? If you're not anchored in your relationship with him, because that's what it says, right? It's over and over and over. It says, your Father who sees in secret will see you. Your Father who sees in secret will see you. Your Father who sees in secret will see you. If you're the only person in the bottom of a dungeon and you are serving him, your Father sees you, right? It doesn't matter who else sees you. God is gracious, so we don't have to appease, impress other people, right? Yep. 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 And the world makes it even more difficult because sometimes it appears in our jobs and in certain searches the person who is doing it for prideful reasons gets the credit, and the person who doesn't. And if you're the one who didn't get the credit but you're the one who's actually doing the work, that's a hard pill to swallow, right? And yet it doesn't change the game. It doesn't change and I'll say this as much as anybody else, it doesn't change the game. Steve's trying to use the remote control on the airplanes. Turn the volume down. At least we're not getting the Airbuses. The Airbuses have those brakes that go, just like the city buses. It drives me crazy. Yes, Molly. Leroy. By chasing fame, seeking praise from men, we make fame our master. Instead, we're supposed to strive to do our work for his glory and praise, right? Exactly, right? And we're going to see that in just a little bit. That's coming up. So that's like, wow, didn't put this whole passage together in that context before, but when you do, all of these things seem to fit together in that same way, right? All right, beginning verse 19. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where the moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The eye is the lamp of the body, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light is in you, the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Anybody do that passage? No? You gave that one to Aiden? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yes. Yeah. 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 Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned houses because that was what I was going to talk about. What treasures do you think he's talking about? You know, there's you can call it all kinds of different things: fame, trophies, titles, houses, cars, whatever it is. One of the conversations in the Love Newport Beach conversation that Rain is having is that they have all of these senior citizens who are spouses have died, their families have moved on, and they're living in these the person that was telling me called a golden coffin. They have these massive houses and they don't see anybody. They don't have contact with anybody. They can't get out of the house on their own. They may have a housekeeper, someone who comes and maintains, and that's the sum total of their interaction with the whole world, because they've made that thing their treasure. That's where rather than being in a place where there's other people, rather than being in a place where their family is, rather than fostering, they've lived a life where that thing has become the thing that defines them even to their death. And it's a terrible problem in Newport Beach. They have all these single senior citizens living in these golden coffins along those shores. So, anything else? It's interesting, the whole concept, remember, because we're talking about eyes and seeing, and he says the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light is in you, the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? In the movie, there's people with the people with bad eyes die, and they die badly. They die terribly, and if they see others as an object to be abused and used in order for them to become famous, they end up suffering for it. The TMZ reporter abuses others for the shot. The filmographer is rude to everybody in order he can get the impossible shot. The aging movie star in the movie wants everything to be her way. The child star who wants his fame back again. They all put others in harm's way in order to get and restore the fame that they feel like they've lost or they're trying to pursue. And so they all had bad eyes. They were looking, their what was in them was bad. The ones that had good eyes, OJ and his sister, eventually his sister, come to this place. They realized that the only way to address this alien creature is with humility. That they can't look it in the eye. They have to turn their eyes down to the ground and not. And that's what you do with a wild animal, right? That's what happens with some of the wild animals in the movie. So I think that's very interesting. All right, final passage. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life and what you eat or what you will drink, nor about your body and what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor they reap, nor they gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more valuable than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to their span of life? And why are you being anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, how they neither toil nor spin. And yet, I tell you, even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like these. But if God, who so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek after these things. Your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Therefore, do not be anxious for tomorrow, for today will be anxious enough for itself. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Anybody do this passage? Yeah. John's got a summary on that one. Okay. Yes. If you don't trust in God, you'll always be anxious. All right.
I think part of it is you have to make a choice.
You have to choose.
You have to make a choice. So are you going to follow what you're wanting, which if it doesn't fall along with God, you're not choosing God, or are you going to choose God? And if you don't choose God, you actually are making a choice.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is like, where are you choosing? Where are you wanting to go? And it could be little things, could be big things. Obviously, this movie it's huge things, but in life, I feel like you need to make a decision, and you need to follow God. You need to stick with that no matter what comes your way, because our lives will go up and down, and God is straight across. So we need to just continue to choose Him. So that was my question.
And where did we start with the passage that we started with anyway? Not Nahum, but what passage did we start this conversation with?
24.
Genesis
Genesis
chapter 3,
Yeah,
right? And what happened in Genesis? God gave him a choice. So right back to it. Started with a choice, comes back to the choice. Following him is a choice, right? Do you notice how he's talking about money and serving money? And money is often connected with fame, partially because that's how we pay our bills. So, if you don't have some kind of solid job or some kind of, access to a solid job, you can't pay your bills. And so if we don't have that notoriety, you can't feed your family. OJ says several times in the movie, he keeps coming back to the house, to the point, I've got mouths to feed. I've got mouths to feed. I've got mouths to feed. And so he comes back to that in order to afford, they need money in order to get food. And then he says, is not your life more than food and the body more than clothing? And so the question then becomes, what are you going to do for those things that are more valuable or less valuable than your soul? Your soul is far more valuable than any of these things, and yet oftentimes we end up selling our soul, selling our integrity in order to get these things. Is abusing other people worth the fame that you're going to get when what it does to your character. But how else do I pay my bills? How does that continue? Anything else? So back to the original verse that we started the movie started with, Nahum chapter 3, verse 6. I will pelt you with filth. I will treat you with contempt. I will make you a spectacle. The alien realizes that it's being threatened by this family, and it literally pelts the family with refuge from its killings. And the Haywood house just gets dumped on with all kinds of blood and other kinds of objects that rain down on top of this house. And so when you think of that passage, think about this. I'm going to read the first 6 verses of Nahum chapter 3. Think about how that leads to the bigger picture of what's happening in this passage. Nahum 3, beginning at verse 1. Woe to the city of blood, full of lies, full of plunder, never without victims. The crack of whips, the clatter of wheels, gallop horses and jolting chariots. This movie's all about horses. Charging cavalry, flashing swords, glittering spears, many casualties, piles of dead, bodies without number, people stumbling over corpses, all because of the wanton lust of a prostitute alluring the witness and the mistress of sorceries, who enslaved nations by her prostitution and peoples by her witchcraft. I am against you, declares Yahweh Almighty. I will lift your skirts over your face, and I will show the nations your nakedness and the kingdoms your shame. I will pelt you with filth, and I will treat you with contempt and make you a spectacle. It was God's judgment on this. Now I'm going to read this passage again, but this time, instead of thinking about the movie, I want you to think about our own culture, our own spectacle-seeking culture, specifically in the West and related to the Hollywood culture. Woe to the city of blood, full of lies, full of plunder, never without victims. The crack of whips, the clatter of wheels, galloping horses, jolting chariots, charging cavalry, flashing swords and glittering spears, many casualties, piles of dead, bodies without number, people stumbling over corpses. This doesn't sound like most Hollywood movies. All because of the wanton lust of the prostitute alluring the mistress of sorceries, who enslaved the nations by her prostitution and peoples by her witchcraft. I am against you, declares Yahweh Almighty. I will lift your skirts over your face, and I will show the nations your nakedness and the kingdoms your shame, and I will pelt you with filth and treat you with contempt and make you a spectacle. So now what? I have to ask, I'm wondering if Jordan Peele, the director, has turned us all, especially our culture, into a spectacle, revealing, kind of like the emperor that was found to be naked, revealing the nakedness of our fame-seeking culture. Jupe, one of the characters, tells the watching crowd, "We are being surveilled by an alien species, and I will call them the viewers. I submit to you that we have indeed been being watched, but it's not by them. It's by our Father in heaven, and not for the purposes of judgment, because we need to know that our Father sees you. And in our desire to be seen, we need to know that our Father in heaven, who loves and cares for us, he sees us right where we are." And I need to ask you to take a kind of a visceral temperature check. Like, how does that make you feel that God sees you? It might make you feel bad because you hope that he didn't see what you did and you can't change, that you feel like you did it in the secret of some dark or hidden space, and yet God has seen that as well. It may make you feel good because you need to be seen. You need God to know the pain and the suffering that you're going through, that the things that you are wrestling with are known to your Father who is in heaven. You need to know that someone sees what's going on. You need to know that he is the one who's in control. There are two other places in Scripture where the word spectacle is used. Luke chapter 23, verse 48. And all the crowds had assembled for this spectacle. When they saw what had taken place, they returned home beating their breasts. The Father in heaven, our Father in heaven, made Jesus to be a spectacle with all the refuge of humanity heaped upon him so that he could die for us and our rebellion against him. We say it every Sunday. God is gracious, so I don't have to prove myself to others. Grace is something that we receive that we don't deserve. Mercy is when we don't get what we do deserve, but grace is when we get what we don't deserve. We do deserve hell for our rebellion to God, but because of God's grace, and that's where it's amazing grace, right? Because of his amazing grace, we are forgiven. Psalm 86, verse 15 says, "But you, O Yahweh, are a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness." God is the only voice that matters, and he has forgiven us. So with that as our anchor, that is our starting point, what does it really matter? What our neighbors think, what our bosses think, what our colleagues think, what our classmates think. And guess what? Because he has extended mercy to us, we get to become agents of mercy and extending that same mercy to others. So what kind of fame do you really need anyway? If you're famous with your Father who is in heaven, what does any other kind of fame matter beyond that? The final time spectacle, the word spectacle is mentioned in Scripture, is in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 9 through 13. "For I think that God has exhibited us apostles as the last of all men sentenced to death, because we have become a spectacle to the world." We have become a spectacle to the world. "To angels and to men, we are fools for Christ's sake, but you are wise in Christ." So he's being sarcastic here, just so you know. There's these people who think they've achieved everything, and so they're looking down on him. So he's like, no, you are wise. We are fools. We are weak, but you are strong. You are held in honor, but we are in disrepute. To the present hour we hunger and thirst. We are poorly dressed and buffeted and homeless, and we labor, working with our own hands. We revile. When reviled, we bless. When persecuted, we endure. When slandered, we entreat. We have become and still are like the scum of the world, the refuge of all things. And God is using the scum of the world to make a spectacle for his kingdom. Yes, God will call you to be a spectacle, sometimes even what appears to the rest of the world, especially in today's politics, a foolish one, a despised one, but it's all for the sake of showing off his power and his glory and his kingdom. So what kind of spectacle do you want to be? Father, thank you for guiding our conversation today. Thank you that we don't have to perform like circus animals in order to gain fame in your eyes, that you love us regardless. And it's in that regardless that you take the craziness of our lives, the bewildering things of our lives, the brokenness of our lives, and turn them into things that are so beautiful. The world can't but watch and say, who is this God? Help us to shine for you, to be a spectacle for you. In Jesus' name, amen.